Hi, my name is Ksenia. I am an architect in Victoria, British Columbia, and together with my husband Janusz, we have a small development company where we buy land, rezone it, build on it, and then sell the housing that we've built to the end user. We are happily self-employed, and a lot of you are asking how we got started and what it is that we do on the daily, how we get our projects approved, how we find our lots to build on, and how we make our decisions as a company. And this channel is going to be about that. It's going to be about our journey and what we do. The production value of this is going to be well, you're looking at it as I'm recording these videos between my children crying, my cats meowing, someone is playing piano downstairs, So it is what it is. Take it for content, not for the production value. So let's get started. Today's video is about small scale multi-unit housing policy, or SSMUH for short. This is the most recent provincial policy in British Columbia that essentially sets out to put an end to all single family housing. So if you're buying into single family housing recently, or maybe you're living in a single family neighborhood, there are no longer any guarantees that you're not going to be living next to a houseplex, or a townhome development, basically at any time in the very recent future. So in this video, I'm going to cover what this policy is, where it applies, where it doesn't apply, what exceptions exist, what it means for small scale developers, what it means for just the fabric of our cities, like what is it going to do to our municipalities. So the following videos that I intend to publish tomorrow and the day after, I'm going to go through these municipalities that are choosing to implement and how they're choosing to implement this policy. Spoiler alert, a lot of the intent of this policy is being lost in translation, as these municipalities are choosing to be anywhere on the spectrum from kind of being easier to develop and implement and being really hard to develop and implement. So this essentially means that not all of these municipalities are going to be equally easy to develop in and equally profitable to invest into in terms of real estate and land. So now all municipalities in British Columbia are required to update their zoning bylaw by today, June 30th, and they're required to allow anywhere between 2 to 6 units without the rezoning. So you're only applying for a development permit on lots that qualify as of today. What is small scale multi-unit housing? This term, it's a general term that covers everything that is small scale. So secondary suite, garden suites, duplexes, triplexes, houseplexes, and then townhomes up to 6. Secondary suites are allowed anywhere at any time now. Blanket rule for everywhere in British Columbia. So if you always wanted to build one, now's your chance. Garden suites are freestanding, so now these are still up to separate municipalities to allow or not to allow, so no clarity really there. Some of them are going to choose for those to be via development permit as well, but some of them are going to continue require rezoning. When it comes to 3 and more units being allowed on each single family lot, municipalities are compelled to allow it if they meet one of the following 2 conditions. Number 1, if this municipality is over 5,000 residents, automatically they have to implement this rule. Or if the municipality has a defined urban growth boundary defined in their OCP. So, for example, the city of Duncan on Vancouver Island falls just short of 5,000 residents, but they do have an OCP, an official community plan, where they themselves defined a boundary where they want the development in Duncan to occur. So as such, Duncan and all the other municipalities that do have that defined boundary, defined by themselves in an official document, those municipalities now have to update their zoning and allow anywhere between 3 to 6 units on every lot. So if you live in the area that is less than 5,000 residents and you would like to know if you have that urban growth boundary, and if your lot falls within that urban growth boundary, you can request this information from your planning department, so just call them or search your local site, and there's a map somewhere out there that will tell you if there is or there isn't a growth boundary. Or ask me, you know, in the comments, or write to me on Instagram, and I'll point you to the right direction. Now, in terms of the number of units that is going to be allowed on each lot, that is dependent on a couple of factors. Number one, lot size. If you don't know the size of your lot, you can look up that information from BC Assessment website. So just enter your address and you will find out how large your lot is. Small lots, as defined by the province, small lots that are under 280 square meters, which is 3,014 square feet, qualify for up to 3 units. Now, that's quite small, 3,000 square feet. Right now, a typical lot in Victoria is anywhere between 5,500 to 6,000 square feet. And that has a single family home on it. So this is going to be half the size at 3,015 square feet with triple the amount of units. So this could be, if this takes off, there'll be some real change to these single family home neighborhoods. Well, at least that's the idea. Lots that are larger than 3,014 square feet will qualify for a maximum of 4 units. And then to qualify for 6 units and more, these lots need to be that size, over 3,014 square foot, but also they have to be within 400 meters of a frequent bus route, where at least one bus runs in intervals of 15 minutes or more, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. during the week, and then 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekends and holidays. Now, public transit is not great on the island and anywhere in Canada in general, but on the island specifically, it's not great. So a lot of even central communities like Esquimalt, for example, are going to have a very hard time meeting this requirement, and therefore 6 units are a little bit out of reach for now, up to 6 units on each lot. But so right now, no lots in Esquimalt, for example, qualify. Victoria is going to have some lots that do qualify. So it just depends whether or not you are in that near that bus. And municipalities may choose to update their bus routes, or they may choose to still opt into the 6 units and more, or six units on each lot option, but we'll see if any of them actually do. It appears that SSMUH might be into that. Now, are there any exceptions to this policy? As I already said, no exceptions for secondary suites, but for 3 to 6 units, yes, there is a list of exceptions. So number 1, if your lot is on rural land that has its own rules under a local government act, then your lot does not qualify. Number 2, if your lot does not have sewage and water connection, so those of you that are currently on septic, your lots don't qualify. Number 3, if your lot has a heritage designation, self-explanatory, they want to keep as many of those heritage homes as possible. So if your lot has a heritage designation, you don't qualify. Number 4, if your lot is located in some sort of a hazardous area, or something that your township can claim is a hazardous area, such as, for example, a tsunami zone. So in that case, your municipality may choose to exclude those lots. For example, Esquimalt has decided to exclude all of their waterfront lots that are within the tsunami zone. So you won't see any of these developments happening on the waterfront, which is too bad. I really was hoping that with this with this regulation, we're going to kind of break into the waterfront a little bit, and the waterfront is not going to be just for the wealthiest of the wealthy. So I was really hoping that we would see some townhomes in Esquimalt on the waterfront. In my opinion, this was not the right decision by the local council, but moving on regardless. Right now they're exempt. Now, number 5, lands under the Island Trust Act. You'll have to look this up in more detail because I'm not really familiar with the Islands Trust, but at a minimum, I know that all the Gulf islands such as Bender Island, Salt Spring Island, Galiana, all of those islands fall under the Island Trust. So all of those are going to be excluded, no developments on those lots. Number 6, if your lot is too large. So if your lot is larger than 43,000 square feet, it does not qualify. And the reason there is that these are considered simply to be too valuable to just allow 4 units on. So the province would like more units to be, that land to be reserved to provide more housing. 4 units is just not enough. Number 7, lots that are already zoned multifamily. Even if those lots are too small to be built on their own. So oftentimes you will get a lot and it's meant to be a land assembly and it's zoned multifamily, and those lots don't qualify, again, because the province sees them to be too valuable to be wasted on 4 units. Number 8, if you have some sort of a previously agreed upon covenant that is limiting development, you'd need to discharge that covenant first if you can. So our lot here, when we subdivided it, there was a covenant that it'll have 1 house on one lot and 1 house on the other lot. We have applied and got that covenant removed, so we'll be applying now for more units on that lot, but first we had to remove that covenant. Number 9, if your lot is located in a transit-oriented area. That is a separate provincial policy I'll cover separately in a different video, but it's basically applicable to larger municipalities like Victoria who are anticipating a much higher density in these transit-oriented lots. So we're talking 8 to 12 stories near these transit hubs. Again, the idea there is that this land is more valuable and therefore they don't want to waste density, so you don't qualify. Number 10, commercial, industrial, agriculture zones, none of those qualify. This is specifically for single-family residential, single-family and duplexes only. 11, archaeological sites are also excluded as expected and self-explanatory. So there you go. If you have land in a single-family zone and it doesn't fall under any of these exceptions or exemptions, after June 30th, which is today, you are able to skip the rezoning process within your municipality. So the whole process where your local government or your local council is to allow or disallow your development, the process where your neighbors could get involved and provide input and express opposition, none of that, all of that is out the window. You are now within your right to develop your own lot if that lot qualifies and if it doesn't fall under any of those conditions. You'll still have to apply for a development permit, which outlines what it is that you intend to build, what it would look like, how many units, and so on and so forth. But if it follows all the rules that your municipality has set out, it's a development permit, it's a done deal, essentially. And that's where not every municipality is going to be apples to apples to develop in. These municipalities some of them are choosing to be more of the restrictive end of what the province suggested. So the province rolled out the rules, setbacks like this, site coverage like this, building height between this and this. And so some of the provinces are choosing some of the municipalities are choosing the more restrictive end of this. So if the province says they would like anywhere between 1.5 to 4 meters in setbacks, some of the municipalities are choosing 1.5 meters, some of the municipalities are choosing the 4 meters, and that is going to make all the difference. So for these small projects, how municipalities choosing to interpret these rules is going to make all the difference. And I'm going to go through every municipality, learn the rules, and share those rules with you. In general, though, the whole point of this policy was to make development on small lots and development of small projects as easy as possible. So the kind of the direction from the province to these municipalities was, do not impose unreasonable expectations that are going to impede development and developing these small lots, because they're already as hard as possible to develop. Don't be asking for unreasonable parking ratios, too small of a building height, too big of a setback. And this policy was meant to be, it was intentionally aggressive. And these municipalities choosing to potentially mute and minimize the effects of this policy, that's not something that they'll have to be explaining this to the province. So if they deviate from any of the rules, if they deem to be too restrictive, the province could come in, and that policy specifically says the province will come in and will overrule any of these rules that municipality is setting that are not in keeping with the policy's intent. In general, I was very surprised by how bold this policy was when it first came out. I was expecting something really lukewarm, sort of a similar document to Missing Middle when it first came out, where there was absolutely no uptick because the rules were so restrictive that for 6 months or 8 months there wasn't a single application going in. They had to go back and really amend it for some of the projects to start coming in. So I was sort of expecting a very similar policy, but no, I was wrong. This actually is a very aggressive policy. It has a chance to make a real difference in development, in small scale development. And this could be good or bad news depending on where on the scale you fall. Are you pro development? Are you against development? Which, by the way, let me know in the comments if you are, or if you're pro development or more on the cautious side. So yeah, all the metrics in this policy are quite aggressive, and let's see if there'll be an uptick. It'll still be very hard to financially make these projects that are 3 to 4 units happen. Janusz and I are going through this exercise where we're trying to figure out what is this maximum that you need to pay in every municipality. That number is going to be different in every municipality, but what is that number that you need to pay for these lots in order for them to make sense? Once we know all of that information, I'll be sharing it with you guys as well. I'd say the province did everything possible to make this policy as as all encompassing as possible, and to make it as easy as possible to develop these lots. But it's now up to the specific municipalities and how they choose to deviate or not to deviate from the policies. I do think change is coming. If not with this policy, then with a combination, this policy, Missing Middle policy, the transit-oriented policy, our cities are going to really change in the next little bit. How it will unfold, I'm here to see it. But yeah, that's it for today, guys. For more invigorating content like this, please stick around. I'll try to post a video once a week. Let me know in the comments if this was at all helpful, or if you have any questions. And of course, if you have any video suggestions for me to do next, I read all the comments, as you can tell. So anyways, have fun and cheers. See you next time.